Good evening and welcome to tonight's episode of Let's Talk Justice, Live Your Rights. This is a program brought to you by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development, as well as the National Prosecuting Authority. Today is the episode number 24, which will be looking more on the overview of the National Prosecuting Authority. Dumelang Abusheni Leperile. Ra le dumedisa ka le kae go le kae tsang le reditsele le teng leina la ka ke Mosotho Stone ke broadcaster from Pretoria Studios tsa Government Communication and Information System. Today we are, like I said, we are looking at the overview of the National Prosecuting Authority, and then tonight we have a guest from the National Prosecuting Authority who will be giving us a brief background that led to the establishment of the NPA, as well as the mandate of the NPA, in a brief explanation about the criminal justice system in South Africa, as well as what is the role of the NPA in this whole. Kasi thorare ke ba chochisi. Ka setho ra re ke ba chochisi ke tla go batlela ka sezulu gore ba re keng 11 minutes past 6, and in the studio tonight we are having our guest from the National Prosecuting Authority, Ntate Luvuyo Mfaku. Welcome, sir, and we are very happy that you are coming to unfold this with us.
Good evening and thanks for having me.
All right, now let's talk about the NPA. What kind of institution is it? How was it established, and what is its role to the communities?
To give you a bit of a background, the NPA is as a result of Section 179 of the Constitution. 179 envisages a situation where we have a single national prosecuting authority. Before that, we had attorney generals who were operating in their areas of jurisdiction. In a nutshell, they were conducting their prosecutorial decisions in a fragmented manner. Now, the Act, the National Prosecuting Authority Act, was enacted to ensure that there's a single prosecuting authority as envisaged by Section 179 of the Constitution. To give you a structure of the NPA, there is a National Director of Public Prosecutions who is the head of the institution.
That's right.
Who is appointed by the President, and the President also appoints 4 deputies, Deputy National Directors of Public Prosecutions, as well as Directors of Public Prosecutions who are responsible for prosecutions in their respective jurisdictions. That is, in the 9 provinces, we've got directors of public prosecutions.
That's right.
That is basically the structure of the NPA.
And the mandate of the NPA, we know many people, when they think of NPA, they like, yo, giyabanjwa.
The mandate of the NPA is very clear. It's we conduct prosecutions, criminal prosecutions on behalf of the state,
yes,
and anything incidental thereto. We do not investigate. The investigation is the sole mandate of the police.
That's right.
Ours is to prosecute, but we work closely with the police, because once a docket is forwarded to the prosecutors, they have to guide police investigations to ensure that they prosecution driven.
All right. If you want to talk to us, we have a toll-free number. If you have a landline, it's 0800 142 446. 0800 142 446 is a toll-free number from a landline. However, if you are using your cell phone, please give our producers your number, and then they will call you back, and then you can engage Mr. Luvuyo Mfaku, who is from the National Prosecuting Authority of South Africa. Now, maybe if we just get to elaborate it a little bit, Mr. Mfaku, to say the NPA's role in the criminal justice in South Africa. You see, I want every person across South Africa to actually get the understanding what happens when somebody gets arrested. They get into the cells with the police, and then the next 2-3 days they get into court, and then that's where your work starts. All right? So your role in the criminal justice system, what's the whole point?
In the criminal justice system, we play a very central role, in the sense that when a complaint is reported to the police, a complaint has to be reported to the police. The police, their responsibility is to protect the citizens, prevent crime and investigate crime. So they will conduct their investigations. They will then, after conducting the investigations, they will refer the docket to a prosecutor in their area of jurisdiction. The prosecutor will look at the docket, will study the docket and analyze the evidence that is presented. Then the prosecutor, if there is still outstanding evidence that has to be procured by the police, he will give instructions that go and do further investigation. And therefore, the investigations, in that sense, they become prosecutor guided, because the prosecutor will look at what would be admissible in court.
That's right.
And say, go and procure this, in order to ensure that when I present the matter in court, I present a solid case.
Yes. All right. Now, you talked about the system from the police side right up to where it gets to the NPA and into court. Let's talk about the role of a prosecutor. Somebody ka setho, like I said, I think you can also help us in isiXhosa. What's the role ya mutshotshisi?
The role of a prosecutor in essence is a people's lawyer. They represent the state. A victim or a complainant is represented by the prosecutor in court. Hence, if you look at the robes that are worn by prosecutors in court, they reflect that people's lawyer. They are the lawyers for the victims.
That's right.
That is why they consult with the victims. They ensure that victims are treated fairly in court and that their rights are respected. They consult with them. They take them through the criminal justice process in terms of orientating them about the court processes, what to expect, when testifying, what is expected of the victim. But they do not really coach them in terms of saying manufacture evidence, but they guide them in terms of what is contained in the docket and the statements that they have made. So that is the role of a prosecutor. The prosecutor presents evidence in court. They are called dominus litis. They are the main litigators in court. They have to be in charge of the courtroom in terms of presenting evidence for the state.
Okay. Let's get it clear. You are not the people's lawyers on a level where they say if you cannot afford an attorney or a lawyer, then the state will provide one for you.
Let me clarify that we represent the state. We are people's lawyer in the sense that the victims' rights are really essential to prosecution.
That's right.
That they have to ensure that their rights are safeguarded and protected. There's another element to the criminal justice system, that is that of a legal aid, which is an institution within the justice system.
That's right.
That when a person, an indigent accused, a person who cannot afford the services of a lawyer, he will therefore be assisted at the state expense by a legal aid attorney who is within the Justice Department, that they would actually provide those services free of charge, because that person cannot afford, but there are means tests that are applied to ensure that in fact this person cannot afford the services of an attorney.
All right, there we go. And then if you want to join us, we are on Let's Talk Justice, which is hashtag Let's Talk Justice. The conversation is going on right now. And also on the platforms, you can join us on Facebook, which is the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. And on Twitter, we are at DOJCD_ZA. They are all capital letters. It's at DOJCD_ZA. And we are also on Instagram at DOJCD. On Instagram, DOJCD. However, if you feel like you need to talk to us directly, Mr. Luvuyo Mfaku is here in the studio to answer all the questions that might arise from all the topics and the conversations that we are having today. You are on 0800 142 446 0800 142 446. Remember, it's toll free only when you're using the Telkom landline. However, if you have a cell phone and you need to contribute to this program, call our producer. The producer will take the number, which is Nonhlanhla. She will be taking all your calls tonight, and she will be relaying them all into the studio so that we can talk to you. Remember also that while we are speaking mainly in English for everybody to understand, you are also welcome to call in your own language. Rabua, rateta, vakwamba ngamanda, rabula rira, kamuho setho se batlang go re bolele ka gona. Ka bjale o ka re founela mo 0800 142 446. Re founela mo 0800 142 446. Le ka Setswana tota, le ka Sesotho sa bo manyeo se paqameng, le ka re founela ka mogho jwana. Ntate Faku, ha re tswella pele fa. Now that we have talked about the difference between the state lawyer and the prosecutors, who happen to be the lawyers of the people, in most cases, you find that there's quite a lot of complaints after the case has been finalized. Somebody has been found guilty, somebody has not been found guilty. We get all these public debates, debating all these different merits of the cases. However, we are not legal experts at that matter. How does it unfold with NPA after the case has been finalized in court? I'm not going to talk about whether somebody is being satisfied or not, but what happens after that?
A matter when it's finalized and with a verdict, meaning yes, whether a person is convicted or is acquitted.
Yes.
A prosecutor in court would explain to the complainant what has transpired and explain the processes thereafter. Remember, if it's a conviction, we would the prosecutor would speak to the victim or complainant and outline the processes and ensure that the victim is happy with all the processes. If it's an acquittal, even then we've got a responsibility to ensure that we explain the processes. That in fact, if there was issues of technicality, if the testimony of the witnesses was contradictory, the prosecutor has got a responsibility to explain those processes so that when the victim or complainant leaves the courtroom, he gets satisfied that the processes were explained, and the fact that the state can only appeal on a point of law. Those are issues that are explained to them, and the avenues that are available to that particular person to take the matter forward.
That's right. And which lead me to the next question of what's the relationship between the judiciary, which is the judges, and the prosecutors? How do you relate in terms of a particular case that's happening?
The judiciary is independent. They are the one who adjudicates. The responsibility of the prosecutor is to present evidence in court and prove the state case beyond any reasonable doubt. That is the yardstick. That's a measure. Then the prosecutor will then call witnesses. Even the victim will be called to testify. Victims get prepared by court preparation officer as to what kind of questions to expect, the cross-examination and all the court processes they are explained, so that when they take the stand, they are empowered and better prepared to give testimony so that they're not intimidated and speak about what they experience, not manufacture any other story that never transpired.
That's right.
Now the decision whether to acquit or convict lies solely with the presiding officer, be it a magistrate or a judge. It is not the responsibility of a prosecutor.
All right. Now I believe I've taken out a whole lot of myths that are out there in terms of what is the relation. Maybe this prosecutor is eating with a judge. I hope people are actually listening and getting to understand that, you see, it's an independent institution, which is the judiciary, and the National Prosecuting Authority is an independent institution. So there is no way that a judge could collude with the prosecutor to actually get the case into their own, to judge a case into their own discretion. All right, we are going to Cape Town. This is our first caller for tonight. Khadija from Cape Town.
Hi, good evening.
How-
Khadija, how are you?
How are you doing, Khadija?
I'm very well, thank you.
All right. I believe Cape Town is keeping you quite very well, right?
Hot and windy, but good. Yes.
That's a good thing. All right. Talk to us, Khadija.
Okay, so on the 7th of December, my garden boy, he got in a bout of trouble. He was then sent off to the specific police station. They then took him in, sent him to Portsmouth. He suffered from bipolar. Then he was supposed to come, he was supposed to appear on the 11th of January. He gets there on the 11th of January. Because he doesn't have any money, they didn't give him the legal aid. The legal aid doesn't pitch up as well as the interpreter. I follow up because you know what? Everybody makes mistakes. And if you don't lend a hand and possibly, send for somebody in their might of, or in the time of need, they then tell me, you know what? That the people didn't show up. You get shipped back to Portsmouth. Now, I'd like to know, when I followed up with the investigating officer, I followed up with the persons at the admin at the court. They told me, well, they can't do anything. He goes back. Yes, theft, whatever crime, you must do the time. But you know what? There's something about humility. There's something about, you know what? It's a human. You just don't because nobody shows up. I said, is there any way of mitigating? Get somebody down there, arrange possibly even legal aid. No, you cannot. So now tomorrow, he needs to appear again. I called him yesterday. I said, how can I ensure that there is somebody going to be representing him as the legal aid as well as the interpreter? They said, well, they're supposed to be there. They stay employed by the state. So I said, but last time they weren't there. So how do I follow up? I just find that, there are loopholes and people are just using it. Instead of showing one, just one bonus kindness and say, you know what, Khadija, let's see, man. Yes, we cannot do it for everybody, but it starts with one person. And I just thought, you know what, seeing that you guys are on, you're doing a great job by, empowering us with this. But it's because it's so close to me and to my heart at this moment, and I'm the one dealing with it. I just thought, let me find out, how do we track it? Because nobody can give me a name and just say, it's legal aid. And just because it's free doesn't mean it's going to be fair. You can hear I'm sound very emotional about it because it is that close. And I'm thinking, no, man, you know what? We must make a difference by being kind, and it starts with one little step with one person. So I'm going to listen very ardently. I'm going to take names and numbers, and I'll call you back and give you an update. I promise.
All right. Thank you so much for your contribution, Khadija. Mr. Mfaku is going to give you an answer in a short space of time. Listen to your radio and then you'll get your answer, all right?
I will do that. Keep up the good job.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. It's quite concerning the realities that people live in on a daily basis that they find. And I believe NPA somehow has a way of managing such kind of issues. But anyway, before that, do we have another caller? While we're waiting for another caller, just know that NPA is not working alone. So some of the questions that you might have might be relating to police work, it might be relating to judiciary work, and it might also be relating to the Department of Justice or the prison system. So those are the 6 main parts of the South African criminal justice system, which is the police service, the prosecution service, the presiding officer, which is the judge, and we have the Department of Justice, which is taking care of things from the government side of things. And then once somebody has been convicted, we know there is prison, there is correctional services who are actually taking care of that person in terms of rehabilitation, because we're no longer saying we are going to lock them up and throw the key away. They are people like us, they got rights. So the main thing that we need to do is to rehabilitate and actually reintegrate them with the communities. And we have one caller from Mamelodi, Motswane. Aus Maggie?
Hi.
Lekaima. How are they?
Yes, I think it's a bit topic.
We thank you so much for that, man. Talk to us.
Just 2010.
Yes.
Involved in an accident. This white guy, Arki Penel Bita, as Zakuleaka are only to find that nese penal beater ya hae maybe a friend.
Yes.
So he can take ya ke checka koloi ola arno a shingile mpitching ke no ke transfer le 7,000 mo another guy o robereka lwena. So you get to prove everything. So Ariana atrasilo. Ke he a ditsa that guy ha fitla ne ke na le ngwana ka wa moshimane. So ha fitla mola are no chele ka lena alamba no ro patetse na le prove re ke nang o deny in front of his friend.
Yes.
Nana le tshwenya ha ba tshware ngwana ka ba moshape. Ke tsamaye go bula case ba gane ka koloi. Ke maphodisa ke re ke koloi ya ka dipampiri a shidi. Ba ile nna ko that guy wa penal beater koloi ba itirele. Se tsentse ke re koloi ba gana ka koloi. Ratsa in front of the police. Ratsa maya. Ke re fitla maphodisa ba re no this is a civil matter. Kana ka lawyer wa yo court ba re mthakola mphe back my 7,000 in my car. Azange amphatsona. Ne? Ba motshwara he ba motshwara fela ba motlogela ba ra gona evidence a ba mpitsa re ke tle court.
Yes.
Ne e be ke tsa besting ke funela Zuma hotline. Ba contact maphodisa ke he hotla le police agent into le say di le tla investigate a case. Ba itsosa ke ba tshine ba itsosa he ke tshwantse ke court ba re ba tla mthumela sa phuna a zange ba iromela. So he can take a follow up a case e gore hande go ira halang because chelete e tsamaile koloi e tsamaile. And then gore he ke tshine ke reporter go ba bagolo. Then ba tla ba ira gore ba I follow up case. From there ba didinala aba sa ba rasile.
Ba nyamela
ke reportile ko Zuma hotline ka be ka reporta hape ko tshale ka ya ko MPA ba mpetsa no ke tshwantse ke se ko maphodiseng because ke maphodisa ba ba mfeitseng.
Yes.
Gore ke kre koloi ya ka because ke le maphodisa ke tshwere le pampiri e tlhagang khotho gore ke tshwantse ke kre koloi ya ka le chelete. So moshimane o a ke tsore maphodisa ba itsane or o na ba overpower I don't know because maphodisa mo ba mfeitse. Koloi ya ka tsamaile 7,000 tsamaile always mente nga thoma kaya ke gona mo ba thomang ka re ba emela ba isala morago case. So the last time he kia o natural case o le ke go court ke tinya ke head of prosecutors ke motse gore a ka khotsofala ka mkho case e tsamaile mbana since 2010 it was 2016.
It's been 6 years.
And then gona dia no ba mpotsa gore motho o go gabo ba mo reportile as a missing person.
Ke mang ke ena o tsereng koloi?
Ba tsereng koloi. Ene hona da no koloi e ke yona le thusang ke sa bereke le yona ne ke re la isa bana ka bona go ba isa sekolong.
Yes.
For mengwaga e ne ke struggle koloi ile le chelete ile and then ba mpotsa gore motho a ba khone mo kire a go utlwisise gore ba amba sa khone mo kire ka re ba mo kire the last lady on a case na motshwere. Ba motlogela he ke tshwantse ke tle ke le ne court ba ra gona full evidence mara was never called go court.
Sure, Osmey ke go utlwile mme. Ntate Mfaku tla bua le rona re utlwa gore ra reng ka yona kganyene.
Okay.
O tla utlwela mo radio a germe.
Ke utlwela mo radio ntate.
Ke lebogetse call ya gago.
Ke a leboga le nna.
Thank you. It is 27 minutes before 7 o'clock and 0800 142 446 0800 142 446. We know you have quite lots of challenges and some of them, like I say, they might be relating to police work. They might be relating to the prosecuting work, which is the NPA. And we have the spokesperson for the National Prosecuting Authority today, which is Mr. Mfaku. So he might not be actually talking much towards what the police are actually doing. But re tlo leka go araba ya gago because it does have that component, the NPA in it. Mr. Mfaku, let me give you a chance to actually tackle these two comments and questions.
Thanks. The Cape Town caller, the issue relating to the legal aid and interpreter, the absence thereof. It is we alluded to the fact that the Department of Justice provides access to justice, and therefore the issue of courts, legal aid, and interpreters, they fall within their terrain.
Yes.
But what normally happens in court, he never explained whether the accused person had already been assigned a legal aid attorney or not. Because if we had already been assigned a legal attorney or not, if it was already assigned, then it would be an issue that has to be taken up with a legal aid. But in some instances, the case is postponed for a legal aid attorney to be available, to be assigned.
That's right.
Then you find out that on the next appearance, there is no attorney who has been assigned. Then that would be explained in court. A magistrate, as a presiding officer, has got a responsibility to ensure that everything is explained.
Yes.
The absence of a legal aid lawyer would be explained in court. And I find it very, very, very strange that when the lawyer was not in court, it was not explained. As well as the issue of an interpreter. Those issues get explained that because of the challenges we've actually encountered, the matter will be postponed due to the fact that the interpreter is not available. But the provincial legal aid office, I'm sure our colleagues, they would provide a number to her to contact the legal aid office as well as the Provincial Department of Justice in the Western Cape. They would actually assist her in that regard. With regards to caller number 2 from Mamelodi, she opened she went to the police and opened a case. The car was with the penal beaters. On the face of it is a civil matter, and we need to advise our people that we've got small claims court that they can go to with those small claims where they do not necessarily have to pay for attorney's fees. Then they will be assisted by those particular courts. But in this case, I see that I heard that there's also an assault matter, and which the investigating officer apparently said there was no case. Let me highlight the fact that it is only a prosecutor who declines to prosecute.
That's right.
You know, it can only be a prosecutor who can say we are prosecuting this matter or we are not prosecuting it. Therefore, a docket has to be taken to a prosecutor, and then the prosecutor decides. In this case, there is no indication that, in fact, the docket that was open was taken to a prosecutor for a decision. And therefore, the police in this regard would be of assistance. My colleagues will take note so that we engage with our subs counterparts to ensure that the matter is addressed. I would imagine that even the contact details of the caller
we are taking all the contact details so that we are able to follow up each and every caller.
Brilliant. We will be in a position to engage our colleagues and then be in a position to respond to her.
All right. And Khadija, do call us again because we do not have your number. Khadija, do call again because we do not have your number, and it will be quite very useful that you do have your number so that we can follow up on that one. Nonhlanhla will be waiting for you to call. And I just want to clarify something before I talk to Tshepo. Tshepo, just hang in there. Ntate Mfaku, within the police station, as the MPA, have someone who is able to help the police on the spot to be able to assist with some of these things where, because it's a sense of hopelessness from where Ausmegi was talking to say, look, it looks like maybe she's feeling that the police are actually trying to dilly-dally with her own case. But now, do we have somebody who represents the NPA within the police station, which I think it could be something of help to the people who don't know anything about the procedures?
No, we do not have someone. The police, they are an independent institution entrusted with the responsibility of investigating crime and protecting the citizens. Now, what happens when the NPA's mandate is clear is that of prosecution. But after investigation, the police must take the docket to a prosecutor who has to decide whether the evidence that is contained in the docket warrants any prosecution. Then the prosecutor, when he declines to prosecute, reasons will be outlined. We write to the complainant that we decline to prosecute on those bases.
All right. You heard that. Police cannot say no once somebody has put in a complaint, which is when they have opened a case. And therefore, the only people who can actually do that, with the reasons, of course, will be the National Prosecuting Authority, which we are talking about today. Call us again on 0800 142 446. And now I'm going to the Northwest in Klerksdorp. Kinale Tshepo. Le kae ra?
Ntate dumela ka re moso.
Re tswile malome re ka botsa lona.
Ntate ha re tlhotse ka mohau.
Ya rra.
Ntate ke tshepo manetro ka life as eno mo tsezo ka.
Mr. Tshepo ke utlweletse rra.
Ntate potso tsa ka dipedi. Ka re summarize ga nyane fela.
Okay mrena.
Potso ga ya pele. Ku le bua gore NPA, the head ya NPA ya president ke the president.
Yes.
Ha ya buta ke the president. Ana ha ile head ya NPA e ka khona gore if mo president ana le pele ka khona go moetsa go constitution e ile gore ke ene ya mo kametseng.
In what sense morenaka?
No, ke go tsa mo nteng ya gore no kana ke NPA a ka ile go tsa ba shoshi.
Okay.
So a re di botsa mo nteng ya gore ka gone ke yone head ya teng e riwa ke mo president.
Yes.
Ya go president ga gona le sengwe e ka gona go tswa mo thapiwa wa gagwe le kgwala gagwe le gona go mo tshosisa na.
Okay. Ke go tlile morenaka.
Le ka ke teng mo potsong ya bobedi.
Okay.
Potso ya ka bobedi ke gore moso relationship ya mapodisa le NPA go tswa ga mapile relationship ya mapodisa le NPA. Ke bua ka gona le case mo itila ba teng ya gore mapodisa a ba tsatsa digongwana tse dingwe around mona
gona mo matlos gona mo Klerksdorp
a di tsatsa ka molao o itseng molao wa tiro ba tsatsa under this criminal act 1818 ha le ba tsatsa ka yona ha se ba tsatsa ntse ga ba tsena digongwana tse di tsena go court motšhotšhisi o tsholla case ebile ba sa tlhagelela ka mo boxing gore no ga gona case but molao o a sa itse ga gona molao o jaanong potsa re nna gore no gantsi batšhotšhisi le mapodisa melao e mentšha e tsena batšhotšhisi ga ba kgone go ba on hand ba kgona go ba le melao e tsena ba kgone go itse because mapodisa a tšhatšhile go ya ka molao o itseng then ha o tsena kwale motšhotšhisi o tsholla case ya ga gona o tsholla case before digongwana tseo di kena ka mo boxing case ya teng di le ga ba tsena cash ta tsholla case jaanong e fana ka tala gore gantsi botšhotšhisi le sepodisa kgolagano mo ka gone mapodisa a feletsa ba highlighta mola o ba tšhatšhileng digongwana tseo ka ona ba o buisa go khoto ka rena re ba tšhatšhile mola ona but why le ga gona case mare rena le case under mola o itseng le lona ga le itse le ba tšhatšhile so mela e tenang ba poise le ba tšhatšhile ga ba itse lao yo ba tšhatšhile le mapodisa mela e ha itseng mo go bone ka nako e lengwe ha di ga o ntse
ke go utlwile rra ke go utlwile le Remfaku a dumela ka tlhogo gore o go utlwile o tla go araba rra
no ke na ke tse sa ka tsene
ke le go tshetse tshwelo ga go le matsaparra
no ke le rile ka tsare.
Thank you Mr. Tshepo. And we're moving from Northwest to Northern Cape in Uppington. We are talking to Frank. Hello Frank.
Hi, good evening to Tate Mfaku.
Yes, good evening Frank. Talk to us Malom.
No, wanted to check one. I have two questions. One is whether in a court of law there are these two things. I heard that Mfaku talking about beyond reasonable doubt, that the case must be proved beyond reasonable doubt.
That's right.
Is there a second concept that I've heard of, which also applies in a court of law, which is balance of probabilities, or does this concept not work in a court of law? That will be the first question. And the second question is, there is generally a perception that legal aid officers, lawyers representing those that cannot afford legal fees using private lawyers, that the lawyers at legal aid officers are mostly ill-prepared, and that does not inspire confidence in most of the people, and those are the poorest of the poor that cannot afford. How is this perception going to be changed, that indeed legal aid officers are well-resourced, human resource, as well as in in terms of other general needs to ensure that the quality of service offered by legal aid officers can inspire confidence in those that need those services. Those will be my 2 questions.
Ke lebogile thata, Mr. Frank.
Thank you.
Keep well, sir. All right, Mr. Mfaku, I believe you got both questions with you.
I've got both Frank's ones.
Okay.
But the gentleman from Northwest, he spoke deep Swana,
Setswana.
so
Okay.
I grappled to understand.
All right, that's where I come in. Let's maybe deal with this. This is South Africa. It's alive with possibilities. It's diverse as it is. And at some point, the future looks brighter when we are all able to understand all the 11 languages. This is one of the programs that actually help that cause.
Let me start with Frank before we go there.
Yes.
With Frank, the first question. The balance of probabilities is applicable in civil matters.
Yes.
In civil matters, the standard of proof required is the balance of probabilities.
Yeah.
With criminal matters, it is beyond any reasonable doubt. Coming to the issue of legal aid being not prepared, I wouldn't really comment on that. I would imagine that the Department of Justice would express themselves if there's such a notion. But as where I'm sitting, I've been to courts, I've seen legal aid attorneys who are very competent, who are prepared, who fight for their clients. And they projected that image of being actually prepared. Now, if there's such a notion that they kind of go to court ill-prepared, it is a Department of Justice which would actually engage as far as that is concerned and come up with interventions.
Okay. You want to go to the second question?
I had the NPA head being appointed by the president.
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, let me get into that. He says the NPA head is appointed by the president, but now basically the question is, would you bite the hand that fits you? Meaning, now the president has actually appointed you and something happens. We've had many stories where the president was implicated in so many other things, which at the end of the day, of course, we know what happened. But now, would the head of the NPA be very independent enough to actually, if it happens that we have a president who happens to do anything that is viewed as criminal or something that needs the court, how independent will he be to be able to follow up with that case? That's basically what he was asking.
Those powers are from the Constitution, that the NPA head has to be appointed by the president, and there are constitutional safeguards within the Constitution to the effect that the head of the NPA has to exercise his powers without fear, favor, or prejudice. That is guaranteed in the Constitution. And as much as the NPA is within the political head is the department, is the Minister of Justice, and therefore we are a program of the Department of Justice. But as far as the directors of public prosecution and the national director exercising their prosecutorial discretion, nobody interferes with that. They are so independent. They take their decisions based on what is on the evidence contained in the docket and on the evaluation of it thereof. There is no interference whatsoever in the excesses of their prosecutorial discretion.
Yeah. So basically, Tsepo, the Constitution does not belong to the president. It belongs to the country. Therefore, we all here, it might have been overused in Mfaku to say we are all equal in the eyes of the law. And I'm still going to emphasize that to say we are all equal in the eyes of the law. If anything happens, your CEO, your boss goes, does something, and you are about to just open a case against him, be guaranteed and make sure that you get the utmost effective service from the NPA to be able to be satisfied. Remember, the whole thing is not about to crucify people. It's also about having a balance, like Ntate Mfaku has said, having a balance of issues, and once they have been threshed out in court, then the judge will be able to make that decision to say, okay, this is how we go about it. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody. I'm just reiterating what Ntate Mfaku was saying earlier on, because we have been here for more than almost 50 minutes now, and that's what we have been talking about. All right, we have callers in Northwest. Renale Kagiso, it was Zeerust. Kagiso? Kagiso? Do. Okay, and then we come to Pretoria. That's Grace from Pretoria West. Hello, Grace.
Hello.
Legai Grace.
Good day.
All right, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Okay, talk to us.
Now the like ladies, ke tla bitsa question.
Yes, ma'am.
Or ke go about this case it's a fair or not.
Okay.
Last year, February, my husband was involved in an accident, and
Okay.
and then most all thing actually the case here high, like okay, what's the question, the witness and whatever and so and so, and then there's gonna be a docket, and then that docket. Is batlona ntse bang update mosadi wa hae e tlo tseiwa and then e tlo isiwa go court where magistrate are something I evaluated the case what happened on that day. Okay, he was not thulana le motho o capsizing, but then now looking at this whole thing, I thought for a give us a chance, like, so that ba check the case and then ba lebelle gore go ira hetseng, and then I could say gore molao o reng no go sentse go etsagaleng sentse ba go no didimala fela or sentse ba re bitse and then ba re presentele the findings tsa bona or byang. So and it's almost now e kwetsa ngwaga ga think ba way back to rena gore botsa gore okay, since wele case e butse and then e lo presentiwa ko magistrate o feditse yang ka yona go etsagalang ba etswala fela or maybe ba checka gore go ka be gona le something maybe say ba suspect, because looking at the whole situation and now personally there's something not for me go na le something se se rahetseng, not just an accident. So but only batho ba molao mo tsene ba ka khona gore ba checke and then ba go gore are they le bona ba agree gore is this an accident or maybe there was something else, just for us gore re tsebe gore ba close the case or jang. So if you ka ba ka re guide fela on that.
Okay, did you get the accident report?
Yes, until accident report.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you satisfied with that report?
No, I told them hore I be happy because the way everything is happening, like I told them hore I be happy because he batlo report the accident. Already the body that by my illegal government mortuary.
Oh yeah.
I contact the scene and everything.
Oh yeah.
Everything, like the body is already go government mortuary, and there was the contact to somebody else, not to Rona, the family. Rona, we were only told for an accident and then the body already moved to government mortuary, and yeah, so but let me give Mapodisha chance to
That's
investigate.
Yes.
And then ba khona re botsa gore bona ba nagana go ba naganang, but so far yena motho o tshwereng cases a lampolela gore okay the docket is to go magistrate, and then khone magistrate ke tsebe ba to present a case or something. That's why ke re kenya go tseba gore go fela yana o batla re bitsa or go iragalang hangata in a case eso.
Okay. Tshwaranyana ganyane Aus Grace. Ntate Mfaku, do you want any follow-up questions to her or anything?
No, I don't have.
All right.
Just respond.
Okay. Thank you so much, Aus Grace. Listen to the radio. Agreme.
Hey, okay. Thanks.
All right. Mr. Mfaku, Kagiso from Zeerust. Okay, let's talk about Grace. Grace is saying her husband passed away last year.
No, I've heard it.
You've heard it?
Yeah, no.
Okay, no, that's fine. Oh, I was afraid that she's speaking Setswana.
No,
Okay.
in this
Lost
case,
in translation.
in this case, when someone dies in an accident where there is no third party involved, the police would ordinarily open a docket. That docket would be an inquest docket.
Okay.
Where if they suspect that there's foul play, that inquest would be an informal inquest. There's a formal and informal inquest. If in this case an informal inquest, then it will be presented to a magistrate. The magistrate will go through the evidence that is presented, because they collated evidence at the scene, and then he would decide whether is there any person to blame. The magistrate decides whether there is any person, any third party to blame. If there is no other person to blame, then they would say a person died in an accident, and no third party is to blame for the accident. That's the end of it. Then those results they will be communicated to the family of the deceased.
Yes.
If they suspect a foul play, a formal inquest will be held. That is when you call even family members to come and testify, and witnesses who observe the accident. Then they would come and testify if there's any evidence that shows foul play. Then the magistrate will decide whether anybody is to be blamed, or whether if there's anybody to be blamed, then it will be referred to the National Prosecuting Authority to decide whether to charge any person. In this instant case, he has to find out from the investigating officer, he has to make a follow-up, because from here it is not clear whether the docket, he speaks about a magistrate. I gather that the inquest docket was referred to a magistrate. So to me, it's not clear whether it's an informal or formal one. But I gather it would be I think it's an informal one.
Yes. All right. Now, it seems like Grace is quite very unhappy about how it turned out. And another thing is also about the communication between the prosecutors and her, which she feels that, people have been too quiet for her liking. How does the NPA take care of communication between the victim? Because I know that the NPA was quite very hard to make sure that the victims and witnesses are actually protected, they actually get information. How do you go about it so that we just clear that one up?
We really victims they get informed every step of the way about the status of the matter. We even have employed people who are called victim assistant officers.
Yes.
Who always, their responsibility is to ensure that victims are informed of the status of the case. In this case, it seems as if the matter was not even referred to the NPA. Remember, police can look at the matter, and it then goes to a prosecutor.
Yes.
Then we decide that it goes to the magistrate for an inquest.
Yes.
If it's an informal inquest, then it's in the hands of the magistracy. And now the prosecutors would not have access in terms of ensuring what is the status.
Yes.
But if it's a formal one, because the prosecutor is involved who has to lead evidence, then he would be in a position to inform the victims about the status. The ideally placed person to inform the victim in this regard is the investigating officer, to find out what is the process, and he can actually even contact the Department of Justice to find out what is happening, because the register of inquest resides with the Department of Justice. Then they would actually be in a position to inform them as to what about the status of the matter.
Okay. Grace, I hope it's quite a bit clearer to you. Clear that much. Do call the Department of Justice. They will be able to follow it up for you. I have Mr. Victor here, and Rebecca Fale, and Simon and I do, as well as Lawrence and everybody who are actually making sure that the public is actually satisfied in the following up of cases and all that kind. Let's take two last callers. It's 1 minute before 7 o'clock. And Sinombongeni ubuya e Greytown. Ninjani baba?
Sikhona njani?
Siyaphila.
Siyaphi engisizeni nabo mfowethu. Umfana omfowethu lawo waba nenkinga. Ube isiphilisa ngezeni elayishinga nje esikole. So ngo-2013 January mangaphosisi. Sibheni waphoqela ukuthi ahike ayothenga amapasi eMaritzburg. Ngikathi uthenga amapasi eMaritzburg, i-hiking sport wahika nomfana omunye oyakhona eMaritzburg. Kanti umfana uyothenga amaphilisi lamaphilisi lama-Menzex. So uma babuya kanye futhi. Bazohika kwi-hiking sport esize Great Town. Ngaleyo nkathi ke siqhamuka amaphoyisa siyababopha. Uphethe amaphasi emoto lo. Umfana lo uphethe amaphilisi awu-20 mabesho. Umfana lo munye lo waphethe amaphilisi. Uyavuma ukuthi amaphilisi awakho uyawazi. Lo amaphoyisa athi swalta phakathi bamnika 10 babhala loqala wagcinezela lejele ke lo mfana. Uthi manje kwakwadinga ingane ke sekumele uzanye nizama ukuthi ibuyeke. Usezama umfowabo weseMaritzburg lonkathi ukube amenzele lonto. Amthumela amaphasi ngala bese kwenzeka lo lukhuzana ukuze imoto mhlawumbe ilunge kodwa nengane kwazi ukuya emakhaya. Uma seyabhayila ke kubhayila umfowabo lo munye eMaritzburg.
Yes.
2013. Ngosuku lwetala. Ngawo bahamba 3 days, 3 isikhathi amahlandla amathathu. Ngekathi icala liphela la withdraw icala. Wathi ufakazi abuhlangana. Wathiwa kodwa bobizwa kumake lokhuzana. Wangayilanda ke ibhayili ke lo. Ngoba umuntu embhayilele weseCape Town ngalowo nkathi. Uma isebuye eCape Town, esethi oyisela le bhayili lo mfana, wathi ibhayili sidlekile sethatha isikhathi eside. Okay. Lo mfana ukuthi 2013 la ukuwithdraw khona. Ngo-2014 kuthi alisekho qala lahambayo. Usevuselela i-PDP yakhe. Ngo-2014. Ayisabuyi i-PDP. Sekumele manje ayochecka lapha kwa-traffic. Ukuthi ingani ingabuyi kwenzeka njani. Usethola ukuthi uyi-wanted wabalekela icala.
Yo.
Right, ngenhlanhla isekhona le ncwadi le. Yebhili. Right, uma esebuyela ke court ke esifike court. Mina ngibalekanga ngathola lekhuza nomuntu wayethatha amaphilisi. Kwathiwa sothinte uma sidingakala, uma sikuthola ubufakazi. Sobehlanganisa ubufakazi. Bamvalela futhi. Kuthi wakhokha ibhayili ke manje. Ibhayili yesibili. Uma sekuqhutshekwa. Awuthi ngamabhayili amabili. Uma lo munye usephindiswe yabanjwa lo munye ngoba lo babengazani lo umfowethu ogcinisa amazi lo wethetha amaphilisi ngoba lo wathi uma udinga
bebengazwa omunye bekangazi omunye
bebengazani
bebengazani vele
lo munye nje lo akazi la khona lo wethetha amaphathi ukuthi kuphi kwakubo osazi yilo ngempela uyothenga amaphathi ongekho involved kumaphilisini kube kwalo ukuze khona umqaka akwazi ukombheka mthobo right.
Okay, asiyenze ibe fushane kancinci baba. Asiyenze istory sibe so that sikhona siphendule ngesikhathi
Sisisamla. Uthi 2014 wanganda 2015 ke usebuyele uhamba lelo qala alithethwa. Amaphoyisa kuthiwa awekho ufakazi. Kuze manje angazi uyabuyela ngomsombuluko. Angazi ukuhamba kanjani.
Okay, uzolalela emsakazweni angithi babongeni.
Yebo.
Okay, ngiyabonga ba.
Ngiyabonga sizeni bakwethu.
Very hard one. One of those examples that we hear quite a lot. And we're moving to Limpopo ko bopedi ko Phalaborwa. Morena Thomas.
Yes sir.
Ndati.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good and you.
All right. Talk to us sir.
Ke problem ya hore ke direkile koloi na.
Antati.
Hona mo local.
Yes. Hona mo Phalaborwa.
Ya hona mo Phalaborwa.
All right.
So mtako krekile koloi mo yana ke mo file tšhelete vele o izile ne. and I'm for the pampiri ra sign agreement in le ne.
Yeah.
So I end up at a police station in Rat. And reporter or na the area kwana or ne koloi ra revision.
Yeah.
Ar na gi drive le koloi kata mali ona, he's still looking his car. So and the vile ka koloi about 6 months after he regulated the football.
Yes.
Yeah, see at Alima Saidi, regular miracle. Like check a break from Maliona police station. I decided to police station. But Thomas, when I don't so motiva la caria camote. Okay, right, Nanigal the witness. Or not regular coloi, we shall it as a mofa, the witness tag.
Yes.
So Arne, okay, right, coloi when Aliapana or La Rechila. It's ideal. When I one or Lena, when I feel driver coloi, after such a face driver coloi, we set a coloi back. Arno, I bet Charlie take a mofi, and an aliena, let the Fasi, Kaufel, who I. So, Arne, when I can a corne, it's our charge. Mara, Okasie, Bagasu channel, when out the challenge you will court. At your court, at the Slapa court, don't get Yaka Avai, which are more boxing. But end up on Pitcher Barking, never all, I think never put your neck court. I was like court is. But no, man, this thing, I read Mishish. Mara, repay investigate. Since from now, I'm still waiting for them. They never came to me.
So a case has been opened for you, and you've never. The last time you went to court was only once, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Listen on Palabora FM Mrenaka, and Tatem Faku is going to speak to you regarding this.
Thank you very much.
All right. Tatem Faku, I believe you had the two callers. Please take us through that.
The first one, Ubaba was at Durban. The case is
was a great town.
Was a great town, yeah. The case yakhe isaqhubekeka xa ke sitsho kuba isa uthi bazawuvela ngomvulo. Ngoko ke andikwazi uthetha ngayo kuba sawube sixoxa kwi-public.
Okay.
Cases.
Is this what we call sub judice?
Yes.
Okay. Sekowa, Origin school fees, sub judice.
Yeah. Now, it happens that a matter, to just explain, a matter would be withdrawn provisionally.
Yes.
And then you get summoned to appear in court again. That would be when there are still outstanding investigation. And you remember that we are not allowed to postpone matters in perpetuity. Yes. Magistrate will intervene and say, listen, you've been postponing for further investigation. The investigation has been outstanding. I'm not keeping this matter on of the roll. Then procedural would be left with no option but to provisionally withdraw up until whatever outstanding investigation is secured.
Yes.
Now, it might have been the case. I wanted just to clarify that issue in this one.
Kusho ukuthi baba ke le cases asenkantolo uzwile ke therefore asikwazi ukuthi sikhulume ngayo ngabanzi so that we can actually explain some of these things. And then Thomas has a problem. He bought a car, the money's gone, the car is gone. What's happening?
It's a civil matter. It's a contractual. They sign papers.
Yes.
There's a difference between civil and criminal. Then it is a civil matter. That is why I explained initially that our people must understand that we've got the small claims court for smaller amounts where they can actually go to court and the people, a person who owes him or who entered into a contract with can be served with a letter of demand and summonses, so that you've got an intervention of a body, the court with authority.
Yes,
that is what is crucial. Now I don't understand his appearance going to the police station. I didn't get in his explanation anything criminal, and the fact that in court there was no docket, it means that there was no docket that was forwarded to the prosecution.
Yeah, and basically he says this guy, he took him to the police station and he claimed that he basically stole his car, and he only went to court once. That was back in some time back, and he's still been waiting. He's living with fear every day. He's not knowing what's going to happen tomorrow. How does the NPA help in this regard? Because if it's not in court, how far can you help?
The issue is within their check and balances within the police escalate if it happens at a police station level. get the particulars of that person, report that person to the provincial office. There's a provincial office.
Yes.
Go to as far as to the provincial commander. I mean, of that particular area. Say, this is what has happened. It was alleged that there's a case against me, and I was told to appear in court, and there was no docket whatsoever. The prosecution knew nothing about the matter. So they must escalate those. He has to report the matter. He must go to the highest authority within the police.
Okay. This has been the Let's Talk Justice, Live Your Rights program, brought to you by the GCIS as well as the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. We are actually talking about the NPA today, and this is where we saying goodbye to you. Thank you so much for contributing to the program and also for listening. And we apologize to Mpo Kukuni, as well as John who could not actually get through. So much to talk about, so little time. And Tatem Faku, thank you so much for coming through to the studio to actually talk to us through this.
Thanks,
Siabo. From me, Musoto Stone, Raleboga Siabonga, and have a lovely evening.